I've always loved two things, telling stories and programming. Sadly, I'm much better at programming. So instead of just writing a story, I built a whole program to make it unnecessarily complicated. Totally normal behavior. Recently, I've started making videos about magic cards, which means I've been thinking a lot about, you guessed it, magic cards. About all their parts, the type, the color, the art, the weird categories, pretty much everything. I've really come to appreciate just how vastly varied this game is. You've got every fantasy creature, elves, goblins, unicorns, dragons, the lot, but also every fantasy trope. Blood sacrifice, giant epic spells, old epic artifacts, but also really old cards made before designers knew better. But then there's also cowboys and robots and SpongeBob and Sauron and Deadpool. Magic now has everything, from the most traditional fantasy to the most unhinged pop culture mashup. So that got me wondering, if I wrote a program to randomly pull some cards, could I actually build a story out of them? Would all these cards be a good source of inspiration, or just a giant mess? Well, let me find out. I just need to fire up VS Code here. At the archaeological dig, a team of researchers carefully excavates the ruins, hoping to uncover evidence of the long-lost Siren of Calamity, a figure whispered about in fragment records and forbidden texts. But beneath the soil, a trap had been laid. Centuries ago, an evil spirit known only as Kalios Deceiver wove a cruel scheme. It cursed a once protective spectral cloak, twisting it into something foul. The deceiver put it away, burying the cloak within the earth, waiting. Over time, the cloak festered and decayed, becoming a grotesque artifact. The relic Putrescence, now unaware of the danger they unearthed. The archaeologists stand on the brink of awakening something terrible. The ancient curse begins to stir, moments away from releasing a deadly outbreak, and perhaps heralding the return of the Scion itself. Okay, rude, but that was the story I ended up with. Honestly, it came out better than I expected, even though the path to it was just a bit unexpected. So how did I actually go about randomly selecting cards? I can't just randomly pull 7 cards and expect everything to work, right? I might end up with 7 lands or 7 dwarves. A story needs people, places, items, and actions. So I made a plan to break everything down. People are creatures and planeswalkers. Places are lands. Items are artifacts and enchantments. Actions are instances and sorceries. Simple, right? Except not really. And that's what to do with all the cards that are actually 2 cards stapled together. Looking at you, flip cards, split cards, and double face cards. So my code has to consider each face. The treasure map, treasure cove might show up as a place or an item. The other problem is not so simple. Turns out not every enchantment is actually an item, or that every sorcery is an action. There are a ton of enchantments that are actually just actions, like Heat of Battle, and tons of sorceries that just describe an item, like Hard Evidence. So I can either go through and actually categorize each magic card. Yeah, that's not happening. Or I can just be flexible with the cards selected. I think being flexible is actually more of a positive than a negative. Which would you rather have? Never being able to pull treasure map, treasure cove? Or having to go, I must include this 2-part thing of a map leading to a cove? Or maybe I end up with more items than I expect, and that forces me to be creative. I want to embrace the chaos here, not remove it completely. Now I could have just coded that and called it done, but where's the fun in that? Time to over-engineer this baby. I want more structure, which is where I thought, what can give me the structure of allies and enemies? And the simple answer is colors. Thematically, each color has 2 ally and 2 enemy colors, which really fits. And so maybe I'll just pick one creature and make that my protagonist. Then when I select all the other cards, I can limit my search to the enemy colors. So that way there's 2 sides to the story. And you already know the story, so you know how well that worked. Well, there is one tiny other issue. So I was just going to ignore the land's colors. See, the code I wrote is kind of bad right now. It just kind of picks a card and then says, is this what I'm looking for? Yes, yay, then select it. If no, no, oh well, let's try another. Which is just about the worst way I could go about doing this. And I'm currently categorizing cards by their color, not by their color identity. I could fix this, but it would mess up some other things, or I could decide to just ignore the issue altogether. And so I ran the code for the protagonist. It selected Scion of Calamity. Great, awesome. Now, what's a Scion? Okay, so this is not the normal protagonist of a story, but maybe it can work. And because the protagonist is green, everything else is going to be blue and or black, which led to these cards. Great, this is going somewhere. What the hell is Perdutidence, and how do I even say that? Okay, so with all the tech out of the way, let's talk about the cards I got. The thing I realized instantly was it would be impossible for me to write this story if I kept my original plan. I had to be more flexible. On the other hand, there is a theme that runs through all these. Basically, everything could be found in an archaeological dig. Well, almost everything. This one is kind of the problem. You don't really put away an ancient artifact. This is not a Christmas wreath. Now, I could hide the issue and be like, oh, the archaeologist put his glasses away and did XYZ. But I kind of felt like that kind of misses the point of it all. So I just slapped it in. Does it work perfectly? No. But gets the point across, so maybe that's fine. Would I call this a success? I mean, yes, I totally would. I got a story out of the cards. Now, is this the greatest story ever told? No. Do I have any control over the structure, theme, mood, really anything at all? No. But I think that misses the point of what actually does work. These cards, while totally random from different sets and almost unrelated and randomly selected, can be weaved together into an actual story, which is pretty cool. Now, how can I use this code? I could practice making stories with it, maybe try to brainstorm some ideas, or just generate stories that fit into short videos. Only time will tell. Also, not sure what I'm going to do with the code next. Maybe we'll make it so I can pick the card I start with, or think of some other fun constraints I can add. Or maybe I will be responsible and fix some of the bugs and issues that I know are there. Nah.